Moving along,
Jace
wonderful. Right, so we've got, yeah, you've already called them out, so I don't need to do that. Galio ban, directed towards Mickey. He's been playing it a lot in solo queue, and I believe he did bring it out last week as well. And it's just one of those strong, all-in, engaged supports that I think is kind of rising in popularity in the current meta right now. But it does mean that we will not get to see Mickey's special pick. Apparently he has something special prepared for the Galio, but no one knows what it is. So we won't see it today.
I think it's Fiddlesticks.
I think it's Volley Bear, but
It could be one of the two. Clyde banned away against Finn is very, very common. There's LeBlanc against Caps as well. And G2, first pick. The world is your oyster. You've got Yasuo, you've got Rek'Sai, you've got Corki if you really want it, but that's not as fun. And it's going to be the Lucian.
Yeah, it has to be. Even though he did receive the nerfs, they were to his W. So for those that may not be familiar, many pro players have actually put a couple points in the W in the early laning phase. Some even went Doran's Ring as well. And it's really strong as a trading tool. It really helps with the push as well. And that got nerfed. The damage got nerfed a lot. So that method isn't as strong as it was. And I do believe that you can, I don't know if they've gone back to the Qmax, they may have done that now, but Lucian's still a very strong early game laner, and it's definitely someone that you can afford to just put that investment into.
One other cool thing that the WMAX actually gave you, or the 3 points in it, was you got your mana flow band stacked really quickly, because you could constantly poke with it.
Yes.
So it stacked up that mana flow. But Alistar and Sylas straight away here from Rogue. They don't really care what ultimates that Sylas is going to steal because they haven't seen that many of them. They just know that they want that as a pick. Could be mid, could be top, could be in the jungle as well.
I think it's way better mid, personally. Wow, they're actually picking the Zoe here. I mean, we already saw it earlier in the day, and I mean, me and Amazing both agreed that we don't think the Zoe is a great matchup into the Sylas.
Okay.
Which to me implies that they don't expect the Sylas to be in the mid and they expect it to be top, or there's something about the matchup that I don't know, and Caps will showcase today, which is like, it's actually a really good matchup, and I'm excited to see what Caps can do. I'm really looking forward to it. We'll keep a close eye on that matchup, assuming that Sylas is in the mid lane later on.
And we see the Thresh as well for Mickey down towards that bottom side. Probably been one of the best supports so far this split, just in terms of mechanical play and in terms of general team fighting. So really happy to see him have something that can give him a little bit of engage, give him a bit of an aggressive lane as well with the Lucian. And they're going to be playing into an Ezreal Alistar bottom lane coming out here from Rogue. Very safe. Don't really expect that Rogue bot lane to be able to do much into a Lucian Thresh.
They will be struggling during the laning phase. A lot of pressure is going to be put onto their shoulders as Mickey and PerkZ look for those picks and effective trades. You'll also see Mickey probably invest in early mobility boots to try and roam around the map. You want to try and put that Sylas behind if you can, because once he starts to fall behind, his impact in the game becomes significantly less. We'll keep our eyes on what Mickey tries to do. Right now we see no jungle priority unless Kikis wants to Sylas in the jungle himself.
Possible.
We've also seen little top priority, which means more top bans are going to come through from both teams, really.
I mean, there's so much still left in the pool, though. Like, I'm looking at Yasuo still, that Irelia still up if you really want to go towards that. Things like the Elise that we've already talked about, Karthus just being removed by G2, but Kikis has a wealth of options, even things like the Olaf, or maybe bring back the Pantheon for that side of Rogue.
Lee Sin, Rek'Sai is still up and available. Olaf is still very, very good, still very relevant. Nocturne is another champion that I think is quite strong.
Do you really?
I do, especially in the current meta. I think he's just a really strong duelist. He has a lot of damage, but obviously he's not a very effective frontline. But for a team like Rogue, given that they already have the Alistar, I don't think they really need that much more of a frontline.
It's true.
And they can also round things out with maybe something a little tanky in the top lane if they so choose.
Well, G2 agree with you, Vedius. They're going to get rid of the Nocturne. Rogue have the first pick. Expect this to go towards that jungler. It is an Olaf for Kikis, and now G2 have to answer.
Yeah, so what have they got left? You know, Jarvan, Nocturne, Olaf. Rek'Sai is still up, but I don't think it's that great into the Olaf. They could go for something a little tankier and run the risk of getting invaded, something like the Sejuani perhaps, but I don't think it's great into that composition.
Elise, maybe?
I think it's really risky against an Olaf. Again, in the early levels, sure, if you land the Cocoon, Elise almost always wins. Ooh, that Irelia is probably going to be going into the top lane.
Blind pick Irelia,
yeah, blind pick like. With the Conqueror. We're most likely going to be seeing it. Or are they going to go for the last pick? Oh, so they, so they will go for the Rek'Sai. I feel like that their options are super limited, and I'm personally not a massive fan of the matchup. I think that Olaf can skirmish really well against the Rek'Sai, but again, G2 going for that early game playstyle that so many people have recognized around the world, and it all comes off the back of Jankos. He has had a very solid split so far, one of the best performing junglers that we have in our league. and he's going to be looking to try and probably get his bot lane ahead.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where you want to go. When you see a Lucian Thresh, you know where your bread is buttered. And last pick here could be the Jax actually coming out for Finn. I like Jax generally as a pick. With Conqueror, he can be very strong. Into the Irelia matchup, I'll be honest, not one I know incredibly well, so we'll see how that plays out.
Oh, I mean, you definitely get outscaled, and the laning phase can be tricky. Because remember that Irelia relies a lot of her damage from her auto attacks, from the empowered auto attacks, which Jax heavily mitigates, and he's just a fantastic duelist. And because you don't disarm anymore on the Irelia ultimate, her 1v1 dueling power, especially against these like fighter top laners, is a lot weaker. So we'll see. I'd actually quite like to see G2 invest more ganks towards the top side of the map, because putting this Jax behind I think is really important. Because later on, you're not really going to have anyone to deal with him, especially running with the Rek'Sai, who's going to fall off later into the game. So G2, they've actually drafted a pretty early game focused comp, and I think Rogue have very good scaling.
A lot of scaling for them. Alongside that, feels like, you know, you have relatively good team fight. You have the ability to 1-3-1 if you really want to with the Sylas and the Jax later in the game. But we have not seen many teams actually ever make it to late game against G2. You're looking at sub 30-minute win on average. And it would be a surprise, but a welcome one to be sure, if Rogue were the first team to really push G2 to their limits.
Well, we have seen some teams push them.
Oh, that's true.
Remember,
That's
Origin
true.
did even take a game
did.
off of them. What I'm curious as to how G2 will look to try and play this game, because again, they have drafted very much more towards early game, and while expectations are that they are the stronger team going up against Rogue, playing through playing through the early game means you constantly have to be proactive, you have to find these leads, and if you make any mistakes, you can very easily get punished and snowballed on yourself. So let's see what Rogue can do.
Let's see what Rogue can do. Captain's dad, applause from the stands.
Bring back G2 Duff, man.
He's got a 100% win record. 100% record.
100%.
2-0 on the LEC stage. We're going to jump onto the Summoner Swift. G2 up against Rogue. It's our fourth game of the day. And I think, you know, we kind of had a couple of mixed opinions in pick and ban, because originally we saw the Lucian Thresh and we were like, okay, you know what you want to do with Lucian Thresh? You want to gank that lane as much as possible. But then I was like, actually, let's make sure we put this Jax behind in the top lane if we're G2 as well. So a couple of different options for them. Do you think that Jankos is going to think more about going towards that top side?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think you kind of have to. I think you have to play around the... what I think is really important to remember is that Jax will scale really well, and in the 1v1, you've always got to take into consideration how do you deal with that champion later on into the game. And if the Jax is that far ahead, you end up with like a TSM situation where he is 3-0-0, and then whoever their opponents were at the time just can't deal with it. There is no answer, so he split pushes his way to a victory.
Was that the game where Broken Blade built W moves?
No, that was a separate game. Okay. But that's why I think it's really important that Jankos actually just get the Irelia ahead. And I think Irelia as a champion, if she has Sheen, can trade really well against anyone. But I actually have my eyes on the early jungle pathing right now, because what you'll notice is that Jankos has started bot side with a bit of a pull from his AD carry. Meanwhile, Kikis is just soloing away the blue buff. And Jankos has no knowledge of this. So because I see the two wards in the river, up towards the top side and the bottom half, I'm not entirely sure if he was spotted out. I'm going to have a quickly look back on my screen and let you know. But the fact that Jankos is already making his way into the river suggests to me that G2 have a pretty good idea of what went on in the early game.
I mean, that's the assumption, right? And you see Heaq and Vander come down towards this bottom lane relatively early on as well. So the assumption is that G2 know that Kikis is on that invade, but we didn't see Jankos go for the counter blue. Didn't see him split that jungle in half, the vertical jungling we've talked about a few times. So maybe, just maybe, Rogue have actually pulled a sly one here.
He didn't actually get spotted. What was really interesting was what Irelia did was after they invaded, she put a ward down onto the river, and then she actually pinged a question mark to be like, it's really weird that the Jax is actually coming up through the river. I think he may have dropped a ward on your blue. And then that's when they started pinging, you see. So Rogue did actually get the outsmart, the outplay, but Jankos now has his eyes on the enemy red, and he's saying, well, you know what, Kikis? You're only level 2. I have pressure in mid, and I'm more than happy to steal away some of your camps.
That's exactly what he's going to do. Pressure up towards the top side was in favor of Wunder as well, making it very easy for the G2 team to rotate around and help out. Finn actually took a little bit of a bad trade earlier, so he's popped through all of his corrupting potion stacks. Jankos going to steal away the red, and G2, after what we thought might have been a sneaky one from Rogue, actually in a very good position.
So, we will see that Kikis has been spotted out.
We will.
And Jankos, that basically tells his bot lane, hey, no jungler, you can do what you want. So they're going to continue to play aggressive. And the thing about Ezreal into Lucian is usually players will pick it because it's very hard for the Lucian to actually kill that lane.
Yep.
But the Ezreal can't really trade. Once he gets Sheen and he teleports back into lane, maybe there's a small window. But even then, it's a really difficult matchup.
Nice hook there from Mickey. Vander dodged away to the side, but PerkZ already used all his cooldowns. Jankos looking for the level 3 dive here towards the top side. Finn still has the flash. The stun does not land. Caps on his way up as well. Only level 4. Finn up the counter-strike already. Wunder uses the Defiant Dance. Caps there. Flash away from Jankos. Ignite down onto Finn. Caps tanking up the tower. The Ignite's enough. And G2 with a perfect tower dive get the first block.
So we talked about how they wanted to play towards the top side and they invested so much. Ooh, PerkZ in the bot lane.
PerkZ was ignited. Looks like Vander and Heaq wants to go aggressive here, but PerkZ can just back away. He's burned his flash, still has his heal in case Rogue decide to do anything more.
So, cool stuff there from G2.
Yeah.
Want to keep an eye on what Caps does at the beginning of this replay, because he did actually lose a big wave in the middle to set up this roam, and you can actually see that they'd set up Vision in the river, and I think that he'd actually pushed it in, and then Sylas was forced to catch it, which meant that there's no real way that he can follow, and in this situation, they actually have really good tower management. Note how Caps drops the Ignite, which means that Wunder can stay under tower. Now Caps is dead. Just as I was praising him.
Yeah, looks like maybe just overstepped. Sencux coming in there with Kikis, who is on the bottom side of the map. Hook from Mickey does land, though. Jankos look for the damage here with the Queen's Fury, but not going to get too much off onto Sencux.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the replay on this one, seeing how he died, given that he still has Flash and Ignite. And he was under his tower as well. Yeah. So it's just Caps things, you know? Like, 1 minute he's like doing crazy outplays, and the next he's like, oh, whoops, I died.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an odd one. I'll have a look at it. There's about 12 CS lead actually for Sencux because of that roam up from Caps as well. So investing in putting this Jax behind is working. It's about 15 farm down. You can see Kikis here trying to help out his Jax because that big wave could have been in an awkward spot for Finn. But across the board, early game plan working for G2. Obviously would have preferred if Caps hadn't passed away.
Right, thank you, observers. So we see here Caps only level 4. Sencux is level 5. He gets stunned up by Sencux, takes the full burst damage from the Sylas. And at no point does he decide to flash.
Yeah.
I guess he felt that because of how squishy he is in the early game and he's only level 4, he was just going to get run down by the Olaf anyway under his tower. So he was like, you know what, I think I'm going to die. And something I actually heard PerkZ say, I think it was on stream when Caps was streaming, was Caps has a very good awareness of knowing when he can make a play and when he can get away with certain stuff. So when you see him walking away on like 5 HP, it's actually because in his head he's like, I know I can do this, I've calculated. So I feel like this could be one of those situations where he just reads it and he's like, I think no way I get out of this, so I'm just going to save the Song spell.
Well, it's good for Rogue to pick up that kill early on. Want to see exactly what Sencux can do on this Sylas, whether he's able to actually unleash just some playmaking potential for Rogue. You know, Kikis isn't on as big a playmaker as usual. The Olaf, very good at ganking, but not very good at crowd controlling, CCing. You're kind of just running at people as quickly as possible. Well,
it can be rather difficult against the Lucian later on, but what Kikis has done a really good job of is just constantly invade this game. He's had full control over this blue buff. This will be the second one that he's securing, and even though he doesn't have priority top or mid, oh, okay, he may end up getting killed here, but he does just have the ultimate. Here comes the Irelia as well.
Pops the Predator, there's the sleep gonna land, but the Ragnarok will stop it. Wunder jumps in, can't quite get the stun. Finn gets the counter here, and Wunder down to about half HP. Tower doing a little bit of work there as well.
Really nice combo there from Wunder. I loved how he used the ultimate to apply the first mark, and then even though the stun didn't CC, he got the second mark, and that procced all of the passive stacks, which meant that he was then able to get another dive, and he actually took a lot of damage out from Kikis, so really clean Irelia there.
30 CS lead in the top lane now as well.
Finn was just like, yeah, nah, and then he bullies him out. So, as you rightly said, huge advantage now for Wunder. Definitely a situation that you want to find yourself in. Looks like he's working towards what I believe will be the Phage early on, have that extra bit of health and damage. Whereas Finn forced to build some armor in the early levels. Definitely not the situation you want to be on the Jax.
And needs to try and farm up, get to the 2-3 item point. Wonder if we'll see a Spear of Sojourn from the Jax as well in the top lane. I've seen a lot of people build it in solo queue. It's always an option.
It's really... There was a Reddit thread the other day about how it's like the worst thing to play against.
On Jax, yeah, because he just dodges every ability. It's like having dodge runes back in the game.
Yeah. But I promise you, playing against a Fez Jaco is definitely the worst thing to play against. I ban that champion every game.
I ban Karthus.
Yeah, but... That's why I don't talk to you about League of Legends. Anyway, back to the game.
It's literally our job.
So we see Jankos hanging around the bot side of the map. There are 2 control wards from Rogue. There was one towards the top side, you can see, just behind the Cloud Drake, that I believe should have spotted Jankos out. Which means that Rogue are just playing very defensively, they're not too concerned about it, and all Jankos can get is a couple of wards.
Because on the chase here, has the Predator Boot spot, Vander, has the flash if he wants to go in. Not going to go all the way into the enemy jungle, but for the moment they just force Jankos away. Cap's on his way down though. Kikis will just flash across the wall. Oof. Dodges the Drowsy with Blast Cone.
Close stuff, but they will get the flash out. Kikis overextends there, gets punished. G2 at a very small gold lead right now, largely coming from the top side and the AD carry difference. But Sencux doing great in the mid because Caps just keeps roaming.
Caps just harassing everyone across the map here. Alistar not going to connect, but...
He lost a whole wave in mid. Just to help his team potentially find a pick, steal away this blue buff, but here we are. The rest of Rogue, they don't want to give this one away for free. Teleports unavailable is up for Wunder, and Kikis even secures it for himself. So G2, they spend a lot, they get very little, and Rogue actually come out ahead in that situation.
Kikis wins the smite fight. And you can still see, you know, the advantage that Sencux is getting in the mid lane isn't insignificant. About 17, 18 CS up, has that kill. Looks like he's building the Rod of Ages on the Sylas as well.
Yeah, there's also a pretty big experience differential between the 2 mid laners, which is actually a really big deal. So far, this matchup hasn't convinced me that Zoe is good into a Sylas, but what it does mean is that you can often get this push and then look for roams, which is definitely what Caps has been doing, as he once again looks for a roam up top.
Here we go. Caps looking for the gank up towards the top lane. Finn just like, can I dodge? Can I weave? Can I dive away from this one? Paddlestar connects, but there is the counter-strike. Lands the stun onto Caps. Caps almost goes down. Finn ignited. Wunder will get the kill. And once again, G2 get out just about alive. Sencux on his way up though, trying to chase down Wunder if he can. Zoe's out. Wunder does still have the flash. Sencux has the box on that ultimate. Wunder flashes away. Sencux with the flash chase though, with the Imscon. The box comes down. Sencux lands the chains and has enough damage to take the kill.
Yeah, I think the use of the stun there from Wunder was the mistake. I think you should have waited for Sencux to get a little bit closer and threaten with it rather than just throw it out immediately. It means that after Wunder flashed, all Sencux had to do was use his E to get the chase. So here we see Caps miss everything. Then they clear out the minion waves. Oh, he was wave clearing, my apologies. And then he takes tower aggro, and then he hangs around the edge. Now Finn thinks that if he can get the stun, he can maybe burst Caps down, but unfortunately just not quite enough damage, which means that he ends up losing a massive minion wave up towards the top side. Now Wunder, he knows he can't back in this situation. And you can see here, the use of the E was pretty early. Which meant that Wunder was then forced to flash very quickly, and unfortunately for him, Sencux can just dive from underneath the tower, and he ends up getting himself another kill. So he's now 2-0-0. Even though Caps has been roaming around the map, Sencux has definitely been benefiting from it. And look, just look at the levels. Level 10 to the level 9. That actually, it really means a lot, especially with a fully completed Rod of Ages. Caps is going to feel really uncomfortable in this matchup right now, which is probably why he's constantly avoiding it and running around the map.
If you can't win the matchup, just dodge away from it. That's what Caps is trying to do. You can see he's getting a bit of damage onto Sencux here as well, who is almost up towards that level 11 mark. Been a more quiet game from G2 than perhaps I would have expected, considering we said they wanted to play predominantly around the early game. Jankos is trying to do it down towards this bottom side. You can see those turret platings have been worked away by G2, still only 2 remaining on it. PerkZ has a pretty sizable gold lead because of that.
I think it's important to remember that, yeah, as you said, PerkZ has actually been playing for plates on the bot side of the map, and Wunder has a huge advantage in top. So while it might seem like because it's low kills, they've been playing slowly, they've actually been playing exactly towards their win conditions. And I think the G2 are in a very comfortable spot right now, and I think that what we will see is G2 explode in the mid game.
We will. Rift Tower taken by Kikis here. Looking for that top lane tower. Get the plates onto Finn as well will be very beneficial. Wunder off the Defiant Dance, gets the stun off with a flawless duet as well. Finn caught underneath the tower, leap strikes away. Kikis caught in the disarm from that Vanguard's end. Wunder just dodging around, does a great job The plates do go down, but Wunder comes out healthier than both of his opponents.
2 versus 1. I really wanted Wunder to try and commit there, get himself a highlight play, but he doesn't go for it. Instead, he just takes the kill. Meanwhile, on the bot lane, they're going to secure not only the first tower of the game, but in theory, all 5 plates, as Vander forced to ulti.
It's trying to keep them off this tower, but it's so difficult to do on the Alistar. Pops the ult. That tower very shortly to fall. We've got about 20 seconds left, G2. Can you take all 5 plates in the bottom lane?
I think they're going to get it, man. They're trying very hard. They're pushing.
I mean, they should. Like 15 seconds.
Yeah, the tension is mounting.
And we move away from it.
Wunder.
There's going to be a gank in the top lane soon. Oh, Finn's already used his leap like Wunder lands the stun. Should be an easy 1v1, but Jankos is here to help out just in case. Hops the ultimate, and Finn, underneath the tower, Wunder just blade surges forward. Easy enough kill.
Meanwhile, Kikis doing what he often... Ooh, Heaq very low though. He's
PerkZ pops the culling, gets the kill. A great hook from Mickey onto Kikis and the lantern away. The G2 bottom lane with some flashy plays.
So, Ezreal can't 1v1 Lucian.
That's true.
If you didn't believe it before, I'd like to present Exhibit A.
Okay.
And
yes, detective.
Heaq in this situation was forced to burn his flash. Now, while he did get PerkZ' flash, ultimately not worth.
Yeah.
And the mistake there was the fact that he tried to follow Vander and Kikis as they set up a flank through the tri-brush. But PerkZ said, I don't care. And then he went to kill him. So excellent stuff there from PerkZ, finding himself the kill. He will not get the first tower in the bot lane. Instead, that will go to Wunder, who now continues to mount his gold lead. And what I love about casting G2 and watching G2 is how, when you talk about win conditions in draft, they almost always play to them. And remember how we talked about how Jax is this really strong 1v1 champion, and if you fall behind him at all, he basically becomes impossible to deal with. G2 never allowed that to happen, and they just capped him, and Caps even sacrificed his own lane to make sure that Wunder was ahead. And it's one of those things about G2 where you know they can carry from every lane when Cap says, I will sacrifice my lane so that I can trust Wunder to carry. And now obviously the weight falls on Wunder's shoulders, but he's a 2-1-1 Irelia. 15 minutes in, he has a completed Trinity Force. He has a 30 CS advantage. And meanwhile, Caps is just going to continue to get bullied.
Yeah, he lands the sleep. The Ignite comes down as well, but Caps still able to get away. Jankos, ultimate stolen away from him. That's the Void Rush, now sitting onto Sencux. Mickey dodges out from the undertow. Here comes Finn, flashes in, Caps is done. Finn gets the kill, but now he's underneath the tower, and Mickey and Jankos can just chase him down. Easy enough stuff. Jankos secures his first kill of the game.
Poor Caps. He's given up so much for his team, and now PerkZ in the 1v1.
A little bit out of position, but pots the culling. Sencux coming in from the side as well. He's running up towards Vander. There's a lantern, and Mickey gets his AD carry out. Oh, the chase in from Sencux with the Void Rush. Teleport coming in as well. Jax is going to rejoin this fight. Sencux already down, and now perhaps, actually, it's Heaq coming in, maybe out of position. Kikis chased off by Jankos. It's a double kill for the Rek'Sai. Heaq has to jump across the wall, but the chase is on from Wunder. Doesn't land the stun, still has the blade surge, gets the kill. Jankos chasing Vander out towards the top side as well. So much true damage coming out from those fangs. Not quite enough to take down the cow.
We were just talking about it, Medic. The mid-game is where it was likely going to explode for G2, and that is exactly what happened. Fight after skirmish after fight means that G2 find themselves a wealth of kills and now extend the goal lead to 5,000.
Such a big lead for G2, and at start it looks like Caps is getting caught out.
Yeah, and he utilizes his flash this time around because he recognizes he can get away with his life. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't realize that Finn comes in from the flank. He tries to use his ultimate to avoid. It's not enough, so he ends up getting collapsed upon, ends up being a 1-for-1. Then, PerkZ. This guy, trying to make the highlight plays. In a 1 versus 2, is able to force the stopwatch out from Kikis, and is then able to get away with his life because of... Oh, never mind. No, he didn't. Again, I got baited twice. Sencux had the ultimate from Jankos, which means he could chase it, and then we just see trade for trade. So it ends up being 2 for 2 initially, but then Vander's in trouble. Double flash is used to kill Heaq. That one felt kind of personal.
Yeah.
But G2, potentially looking for another fight.
Oh, he flashed into the sleep. Good night, sweet prince. Oh, that was not fun to watch.
So, this gives me an opportunity. No, never mind. No, it doesn't. Jankos.
Still more action going on. Sencux steals away the culling. Jankos on the chase here. 4 members of G2 just surrounding the Sylas, and not really much Sencux can do to get away from that. Another kill for G2, 10-4 up as we crest the 18-minute mark of the game.
So now they're pushing. Remember that in all of this, they had actually pushed up bot, which meant that Finn was forced to catch this entire wave. He's now pushing that out as G2 have set up all these plays in the top side. And now, when... Oh! God.
Oh, that's just unfair.
Would you say that he just queued?
No. Don't encourage him!
I got one.
You are cringe weaponized, my friend.
So, thank you, observers. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. When people say, I don't know if G2 have good macro, look at the top side of the minimap right now. Look at this massive pocket of vision, but also keep your eyes on the...
He queued.
He did queue. Great queue. But look at how much vision that Rogue have over the top side of the map right now. They actually have vision in the river, but they have nothing in the enemy jungle. And what G2 often like to do is they'll move into the enemy jungle, and then they'll find picks. They think, oh, we're safe because we can see through the river, but G2 leverage that. They leverage what... they know what you think and what you see, and then they use it against you. And that's what's so cool about them, what's so fun to watch. But they also like to kill you, and that's what they're doing right now.
Finn gets the stun off, going to leap strike away, but Jankos with the chase. Good stun from Wunder once again, and Jankos will be given the kill. 5-0-3 on this Rek'Sai. We see why it can be so effective on 9.4.
Beautiful stuff. And now the thing is, right, you look at... Never mind. The game isn't over yet. I'll talk more about it a little bit later. Caps is in a situation where he can't really 1v1 the Sencux. So he's just forced to wave clear. He's just trying to catch these waves. But that doesn't matter because he made the sacrifice for his team.
Yeah.
And you can see PerkZ is very far ahead. Wunder is extremely far ahead. Jankos has somehow just been picking up kills everywhere. I feel like his early game, he was just very much about vision and trying to support his teams through pressure rather than actually just ganking.
But he's been able to gank a little bit now with the
I think he's been really
kills.
good at last hitting. That's what I think.
But he's doing it very well. Has about a 2,000 gold lead.
Certainly is.
Overall, a 7,000 gold lead for G2 as he come past the 20-minute mark. And as much as we can say, Rek'Sai, you know, not really a champion after 20 minutes. When you are 5 kills up against your opponents and 7,000 gold as a team, Rek'Sai's still a champion.
That's the caveat that people say, like, after 20 minutes he's not a champion. If the champion does what it's supposed to do, which is get really far ahead in the early game, then when you hit 20 minutes, that Rek'Sai has like 2 items, and she is still very relevant in the game. That's largely because of how far behind you normally are. So now we see Wunder in the bot lane, but this time Sencux is lying in wait.
Oh, he's waiting for it. Wunder jumps in, lands the flawless duet, jumps out, but the stun comes out from Finn. Now Sencux on the chase, Wunder down to about half HP, pops the Vanguard's edge, down to a third, maybe a kill for Rogue, the shut down!
No outplay there. And I think the big issue for Wunder was that he used his Q onto a minion, but it didn't actually die because he didn't have the Sheen proc, which meant that he didn't have the reset. So even though he landed the ultimate, he couldn't really do much with it. And I like the fact that Sencux there to punish. Now Rogue should be able to get a little bit more control back over the map.
Sencux is on a ward here, chased out by Jankos. Mykix coming in as well. Has the flash hook if he wants it. Finn probably just going to abandon his mid laner here if he can. PerkZ is on the chase. Kikis coming around with the Predator as well. Sencux heals up. G2 maybe not in the best position. Heaq smash coming in. The re-engage onto Mykix. They caught out one. G2 went too far and Rogue came a-knocking. They take down one. Kikis. Paddle starred down to about half HP. Caps with the chase there. The redemption used. Paddle star coming out as well. Doesn't hit Kikis because he flashes away. Here comes the culling from the side as Jankos is forced away. Sencux there. Finn flashes in. Can't quite land the counter strike on Caps, who has another flash. Sencux still going forward. Heaq gets the kill from downtown though, and Rogue once again find a kill in the G2 jungle.
All right, so Rogue actually pick up a number of kills there. I think that was 3 in total if you include the one onto Wunder. They don't secure the bot tower, and they don't convert it into any objectives, but that's a couple of shutdowns that they were able to grab themselves. And Rogue, at the very least, showcasing that G2 will not just roll over them as we approach the 25-minute mark.
I mean, that gold has gone down from 7,000 to 6,000 difference between the two teams.
So this is where it starts. Sencux showcasing the mobility that this champion does have. At level 13, you have pretty low cooldowns, which means that you can dash out a decent amount. And he's just buying time for the rest of his team to arrive. Vander with a really good Hex Flash here sets up to just land onto Mykix, forces Jankos to back immediately. He can't really sit in the middle of this fight because of how squishy he is. Caps almost gets himself a highlight reel. Great utilization of all the summoner spells that get dropped here. Very close to killing Kikis, but the problem is he kind of gets isolated away from the rest of his team, and Heaq lands a good Q to help secure that last hit.
Great Q. Lands it just at the very tip of the spear. Another Dragon does go over to G2 while that's happening. They have 2 Clouds and an Inferno now. And they can, you know, keep the map split the way they have been doing. Wunder down towards the side lane, just continually pushing in. Finn is still about 50 CS down, about an item, half an item behind as well. So he's not in the best of shapes in that 1v1. But what I do like from Rogue is the fact they've kind of forced it into a 2v1 at times. They've gone for those kills. They've made something happen on the map, whereas it would have been very easy just to give G2 control over the entirety of Summoner's Rift.
Could very well have been, but they are still trying to be proactive. They haven't completely given up yet. Baron is still a point of contention, and if they can get that steal, then maybe they have an avenue back. Remember, their scaling is still good. Sylas in a side lane, very strong. Jax is going to get stronger the later game goes on. He has the Trinity Force now, and remember, the while Irelia is a difficult foe to contend with at this point in the game, given how much stronger she is, she will not always be stronger than the Jax. Once he hits level 16, I think is one of the big breakpoints as well. So Rogues still have that scaling avenue. It's just about, can you hold on long enough against the thunderstorm that is G2 eSports?
The barnstorming capabilities
Barnstorming
of G2. Once again, Sencux down towards this bottom side. You can see G2 getting vision around the Baron up towards the top. This tower quite low. Sencux will show himself. Wunder dodging around, but there goes the tower. Finn has already used the leap strike, doesn't have flash either. Will go in with the counter strike. There's the leap. Wunder flashes away. G2 fighting up towards the top side. They're looking to catch out Kikis. Can't quite do it. The redemption came out as well. Still two members down towards the bottom side for Rogue. I'd like to see G2 turn towards the Baron. I feel like you kind of have to force pretty quickly because Rogue are now on their way up.
They have mid priority, and now here we are. This is where we see the classic G2 moving into the enemy jungle. Very rarely do they actually use the Baron as a means to force. They just use these pockets of darkness, and they wait for you to overstep, they wait for you to misplay, and that is how they punish you. And you can see how afraid Rogue are. But fortunately for them, now Finn and Sencux have joined in the mid lane. You can see that they are pushing that one out, but G2 again looking to trade. They secure a top tower in exchange for that tier 1 in mid, and unfortunately for Rogue, they can't even convert it into a tower because of how healthy it is, and Cap's still being around.
Rogue still being able to delay the game out a little bit against G2 when a few minutes ago it looked like G2 were just going to roll across this game. Let's have a quick look at where we are items-wise. I want to focus on the AD carries. You've got Blade of the Ruin King, Black Cleaver, and the Rapid Fire Cannon already complete onto PerkZ, but we see the scaling coming out from Heaq. He's got his second tier, already got that Mana Moon, Iceborne Gauntlet as well. Ezreal, if you can get towards these three core items, can be incredibly threatening in some of these
100%.
fights.
I'm not a massive fan of the fact that G2 don't primarily use their sweeper through the river first, because what this still means is that Rogue can see when G2 start the Baron or not. And if all G2 are going to do is group up in the enemy jungle, then it can be really easy for Rogue to just run down mid. But fortunately, G2 still maintaining control over their side waves. They're setting up like a 1-4 right now, keeping the Lucian up top and keeping that wave pushed in while generating pressure in mids. But they really need to clean out the rest of the river, because as you can see, Rogue have full insight as to what G2 is up to.
Oh yeah, Baron started up. Teleport available for Finn if he wants to join this fight. You can see Zoe trying to do a little bit. Mickey there from the side as well. Caps can't land the paddle stars, but he's gonna chase out Kikis. Puts him to sleep, 4,000 HP left on the Baron. Kikis pops the Ragnarok, going into the chase, but that Baron already so low. It's done. G2 get it, and now they're gonna turn the fight because Finn has teleported in. Caps on the chase. It's three members of Rogue down towards the bottom side. A great knockup though from Rogue, and they're gonna go in. The True Shot Barrage comes out. Finn with a lot of damage. The Spear of Sojourn doing work. He gets damage on the PerkZ, but can't quite take him out. Now Mickey chased down towards the bottom side, gets a great hook onto Heaq, and somehow all of Rogue just disappear off the face of Summoner's Rift.
The Storm sweeps away the barn as G2 find a 5-0. They've grabbed themselves the Baron buff. Rogue can't stall out any longer. G2 looking to add another win on their record.
That was just disgusting from G2. They take the Baron, they're just going to open up the door. They don't even knock, they just blow it over, and they'll take this game pretty easily over Rogue. Looks like the 17-1 for G2 is still very much on the cards.
Beautiful team fight there. Now the respawns are starting to come through from the side of Rogue, but the teleport is in. 5 members, Baron up. I don't know if Rogue can stop this. I think G2 have got the win.
Rogue, just another speed bump in the way of the steamroller that's G2. 12-1.
A lot of cool things happen in that game. Love the play from Vander. I love the way in which he set up a lot of those cool headbutts. Unfortunately, when they came about, it was a little too late into the game. Caps really sacrificed his lane for the betterment of everyone else. He roamed top a significant amount. We saw him grouping with his jungler just to contest an enemy blue buff that ended up getting stolen away. He ended up being only 4 CS down at the very end of the game, but that wasn't the case for the majority of it. And even though he was at a deficit, and even though he was constantly behind Sencux, he still found that impact. He was still able to be relevant. And overall, I think that I was just very impressed with what he was able to do. Even though it was Jankos that ended with a 6-0 scoreline, even though it was Wunder that was able to make these really clutch outplays, I still feel that Caps was really the big setter-upper of this.
The setter-upper, the facilitator. The catalyst this team needed to have such success.
He was the prop that put them at top of the pedestal.
Okay.
Very cool stuff. But it's like a nice thing, right? Because so many people look at Caps and they go, you know, if he's not getting ahead or if he's not carrying, then he's not being utilized. But I think this was a really good showcase of how you can use your skills
Play for the team.
to play for the team. And it goes to show how much faith he has in the rest of his team as well, because he can say, I don't care if I'm behind. If one is ahead, he'll carry, right?
That is true.
And if PerkZ is ahead, he'll carry as well. So definitely cool stuff to see. Very enjoyable to watch when watching G2. And unfortunately for Rogue, I believe now their chances of making playoffs are kind of out of their control.
I believe so as well.
And if they lose again tomorrow, their playoff spot is gone. But if they can find the next 5 wins, I think, then maybe.
Even with 5 wins, they're then at 7
It's
and
out of their
11, which is,
control,
it's not the easiest thing in the world for them, of course, commiserations, but one of the good things about the long-term partnership model we have is they can grow and they can mature and they can use this time to approach Summer Split with a renewed attitude.
Yeah, Rogue is a new organization in the LEC, one of the newer ones, and they definitely started off the first half of the split very, very rough. With their changing in roster, we definitely saw some cool stuff from them, some cool opportunities, and we hope that they'll only continue to grow and develop moving on from here. But for G2, they're still looking poised as we get closer and closer to playoffs. Only one team has been able to upset them so far in Origin, and a lot of those teams that are fighting for those spots right now will also have to go up against G2. And based on their current performance, they look like the hardest hurdle to overcome.
I think they're getting very close to locking a top 3 spot as well, guaranteed in playoffs, because they are just those few wins ahead of everyone else. But while no LEC player could ever beat Vedius on Nocturne, we did see some solid play from Wunder, Jankos, and Caps in that game. If you think one of them deserves Kia Player of the Game, go on over to @lolesports on Twitter and vote. If you want to vote for someone super cool,
I'm going to leave it up to you guys.
@RiotVedius underneath and just be like, phone in your vote. Like, write it in.
Yeah, but go on to Twitter, please choose. I think all 3 very worthy. They all did some really cool stuff. I personally was a big fan of Caps, but that doesn't mean that he was necessarily your MVP. So make sure you get over and make your voice heard.
You have to. For more on G2's win, here's Law with their jungler.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Jankos, I'm sorry, for joining me. Considering it's G2 first place versus Rogue last place, I feel like the game took a bit of time to unlock. Do you agree?
I believe that at some point we threw a fight because they caught Wunder on the bot lane, and then instead of just sucking it up and not fighting for the next 1 minute, let's say, we tried to, salvage it, and we all died in a jungle, and that's why I feel the game was kind of longer than it would have been. But I mean, I still felt like we were in control of the game for the whole time.
And we're not used to see you guys play through top lane that much, and you put a lot of action on Wunder on the top lane. Is it different for you guys to play through top lane instead of mid lane, as you guys might do?
I don't think it's necessarily more difficult for us to play through top lane. I just think that the matchup that we had this game kind of required jungle attention and mid lane attention. It's a carry matchup where one kill for Jax can snowball the whole matchup his way, and then we would have troubles on side lane. But thanks to Caps roams and my ganks, Wunder, was like 1 item ahead, and then he could just keep snowballing on the Jax as well. So I felt like we had to do it just because of the draft.
Okay, and last question for you. I was coming here today expecting to see a lot more of Rek'Sai, and outside of you and Maxlore, nobody's playing it. So is it as OP as we think it is in pro play?
I think in solo queue it's better than in pro play. I think it's for sure a good champ and it's playable. And I think Maxlore had like a pretty decent game on it as well. But I would not say it's OP, People will not first pick it, and it's probably going to be picked up in second phase most of the time.
Interesting. Thank you for your insights. Last question for you. Schalke versus Fnatic. Who's taking it?
Well, I mean, Fnatic is kind of bouncing back, and Schalke is losing quite a lot. So I would say Fnatic.
They're not behind you. You can say whatever you want. And
Yeah, Fnatic then.
thank you for your bets. We're going to take a short break, and we'll come back for the last game of the day. Stay tuned, guys.